Betsy Hotel with my family, my son Zachary in the back. I'm sure my wife Leslie about to jump in. First let me say, we raised that screen because we have this beautiful art exhibit here. Fantastic Ethiopian artist named Aida Molineh, who just before hanging her work here was hanging in the Museum of Modern Art in New York. And I would say of all the work we've ever exhibited at the Betsy, this is the one that has compelled people the most. And the work directly behind me is part of her water series, which is an effort to bring attention to the fact that women in Africa have this burden with their daughters to go get water every day. And that their day is often taken up 2 hours each way getting water, and if you have to get water every day and half your day is spent doing that, you're not likely to be going to school, getting ahead. Again, that's her water series, and it's very compelling stuff. I'm not sure why they asked a guy with no hair to start this important conversation about hair. Although I will say, when I first shaved my head, and I lost it actually because I was ill, but I've never stopped shaving it. It was conscious, but people thought I was cool. And they thought I was cool because a black man named Michael Jordan shaved his head. And I'm telling you, for me, it actually changed people's perception. Like I was like hiding my face a little bit because I was embarrassed, I was ill at the time. And guys, men, black men, white women, black women, white men, and everyone was giving me thumbs up when I was like trying to hide because I had taken on a cool that I didn't expect at all. And some of us have stayed that way. Phone and just welcome you because the Betsy is a place that attempts to bring people together around important issues, to promote civil discourse, to engage with the community. I have a good friend in business, and you're not engaging with the community, you're not really in business. And we're so grateful and lucky that we have a chance to go back who make people feel welcome. We're delighted to be collaborating with that. Welcome. So pleased to have you here. Thank you.
Welcome everyone. I'm so excited. You don't know me. I'm the CEO of Harris Public Relations. And when the Betsy first approached me, my good friend, who most of you know, Ed Ponder, who is the director of food and beverage here at the Betsy, we talked about doing a cultural conversation series, hair story, with just raising my daughter who has natural hair and some of the things that come along with that and some of the conversations that I have to sit down and have with her so that she can spend the day with us. And hopefully the takeaway will be that we are all beautiful. It doesn't matter if we have a perm, we have locks, whatever we're rocking, we are beautiful. Okay, so without further ado, Khalid.
All right, good afternoon, beautiful people. How's everybody doing today? You sound a little hungry. There is food and beverage afterwards, so we're gonna try that again. You're gonna answer me in Jamaican, okay? When I say, how is everybody doing, you're gonna say, Ire! How is everybody doing? Ire! All right, you've now learned a second language. Congratulations to you. All right, my name is Khalid Thompson. As Yvette said, I'm the publisher of Island Origins magazine. I'm also the creative director at Island Syndicate, which is a creative agency that produces exceptional content and unforgettable experiences inspired by the Caribbean. I'm also the executive producer at Blondie Ras Productions. It is exactly as it sounds because of my blonde locks, which are pretty much black right now. I'm the executive producer of Taste the Islands, the national television series. And I have a whole bunch of other things going on. I won't ramble about that, but I believe I am here because of my experience in television as a host and moderator on a television series also called Island Origins, where we discussed some of these types of issues. I'm gonna ask everyone to introduce themselves in an elevator pitch style format and kind of say why or what you plan to contribute today within 30 seconds to a minute. Brittany, I don't have my phone with me, so I'm gonna ask you to just time the whole session. When we have 5 minutes left out of the 20, just give me a 5, and we are live streaming on Jamaicans.com right now.
Good evening, good afternoon rather. My name is Parker Gammon. I'm the Minority and Small Business Manager for the Miami-Dade Chamber of Commerce. I also have a company.
I've come out of the hairstyling salon industry for over 20 years. I now run a mobile service called Cut Tees Grow, and it helps women transition from relaxers and chemicals into a natural state. A lot of my clients are corporate, and there's been a shift recently since Black Panther and all these things have happened where a lot of women are taking off the wigs, they're taking off the weaves, and they want answers. They want to stop using the chemicals, they want to start doing something different. So my job is to help them transition. There's a lot of emotions behind it. There's a lot of questioning their worth, their beauty. So my job is just to help them and hold their hand through that process. I'm mobile, so a lot of the times we're personal in the comfort of their own home. So all guards are down. We can take off the wig. We can have a heart-to-heart conversation and set up a routine and a system moving forward.
So we need the juicy details from you. All right. Lakeisha.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Lakeisha Wilson Rochelle. I'm a principal with the Miami-Dade County Public School System, and I'm here to contribute the character of being professional, having that belief that you know, can't wear wigs, you can't wear weaves, long weaves, braids, because it's just in an eye of a leader, not professional. So, but I'll be contacting you soon because I'm at that point to begin to transition over.
And you're from a family of strong Black women yourself.
I'm from a family of strong Black women and one very strong Black woman. And that's another, you know, the look of being professional and classy.
All right, Miss Marilyn.
Well, good afternoon. My name is Marilyn Hollyfield, and just to give some perspective, or to put me in perspective, about 50 years ago, I was a college student, and we went natural because we were children of the 60s. And to go natural in the 60s was a political statement. So I'd like to contribute to this conversation about my journey. I'm now a senior partner at a major international law firm, Holland & Knight. I've been with Holland & Knight since 1981, and I was the first African-American lawyer at Holland & Knight. I was the first African-American female partner in a major law firm in Florida. And I look forward to sharing my journey with you, and I hope that I, in some small way, can inspire you to be the best that you can be, and to be confident in your dreams.
Thank you.
From the dress code to what is acceptable to, and I'd like to just dispel some of that, because there are ways to have a groomed hair, but yet still keep your identity. I have grown in the industry over the years, from working from a conservative organization to a more creative space like the marketing organization, the Greater Miami Convention and Visitors Bureau. I'm the director of tourism business enhancement there, and that's a creative space where we all work to promote tourism to our visitors, and we just have to redefine. I've always been told the term good hair when I was younger, but looking forward, we need to simply redefine what good hair is. And I'm happy for this conversation because it opens up my journey of being a natural hair carrier or mentor or ambassador has been over 22 years. I've embraced it. I did it from my college years, and this was in Jamaica.
But that was much recent.
By comparison, yes.
And this was in Jamaica. And when I transitioned to the US, I wanted to continue that journey. I've heard, oh, what you gonna do with your hair when you get there? So I'd like to just simply have that conversation, because I have learned over the years to simply combat some of that myth and simply work with what I have, and to know that in me, what I have is beautiful. And I just want to share that with you.
Fabulous, fantastic. All right, so jumping off of your topic of good hair, right? When we think about Black hair, that's a broad swath of hair types, right? You have the natural, you have the cornrow or cane row as we'd call it in Jamaica, you have the big afros, the dreadlocks, the weaves, the perms, the wigs. But let's start at the very beginning, right? And what our identity is like, and how we identify ourselves as children growing up with this hair type or hairstyle. And I will start, right? I went to Immaculate, which is a Catholic school in Jamaica. I always felt like the white children with straight hair were treated a little bit differently. Growing up, I wanted long hair, and I ended up doing the perm for maybe a year or two, and I didn't like it, but I still wanted long hair, and so locks became the thing for me. And I was told I would be persecuted and whatever. It felt natural and it felt good, and I've had it since I was 14 years old, and that became my comfort zone. So I'm going to ask each of you to let me know, for you as a child growing up, or if you have children as well, both, what is that identity circumstance or reflection like in your own life and in your children?
I can start, please. Looking back, and I've evolved over the years, I can remember what I was told or what I saw as good here, and I'm going back to family, black families. Mm-hmm. So, we have cousins and we have other youths that are around us, and we all have different hair texture within our own family. You're saying, why is this cousin here a little bit longer than yours? Why is this cousin here? I remember going through that quinting technique. Your hair is being combed and you're quinting and you're quinting and you're quinting. Because, yes, I felt a little pain. I remember those days. And I went to the hairdresser with my mom and straightening the hair. So I saw that technique, and I'm like, I don't want to go through that. And I raised my hand, can I have my hair straightened, please? So I thought that was what I would like. That was what I achieved to say I didn't want this pain anymore. So from straightening the hair, I thought that was the definition of good hair.
And is that when they used to take the iron and burn it?
That is correct. So, but then I went through that journey, and remember, I'm going back now. We didn't have all these bloggers, Facebook. We didn't have all these black products on the market. The type of hair comb that we were using were these detangler versions. These were regular mainstream combs. So going through that, I wanted that look. I wanted that appeal, and it just got overwhelming with the routine. Being under the dryer with this heat, and not being comfortable with what was going on each week, this transition. And I just simply accept, I had different cousins with different length hair, different texture hair. I didn't know about 4C, 4B, and all these different things. No, I know. We have technology, we have this global age where we can learn about understanding our hair. I just knew that it hurts. And I just wanted to alleviate that pain. And then as parents, they would want us to go through this pain as well. They want to help us to alleviate this pain. So I evolved through that, and my definition of good hair was seeing back then as a child, you asked me, was hair that would swing, hair that would flow, and hair that wouldn't make you do that quaint dance with the eyes.
And now you have fabulous hair.
And growing up, I evolved through that. I saw ways of, somebody sat down with me and they started to twist my hair. And then after, I don't know if anybody knows, we call it shiny bump. Here in the US, you call it bantu knots. Yes. I used to have a lot of that technique, and simply learning from twisting your hair and all these different routines, how you could create different unique styles with your hair. And that's what helped me to realize that this flow of the hair, that's not what necessarily I needed for me. What I liked was, oh, look at your hair. I liked that it was quite different in retrospect. The fact that somebody would give you that second look like, her hair is, yes, it's different. And I liked that it was different. So for me, that term, good hair, it transformed my thinking of just owning my 4C and 4B hair and working with it more manageable.
Fantastic. Marilyn, you have a deep and detailed story to share with us.
So my journey has been a zigzag journey. Most of the people in the room probably do not know much about living under Jim Crow segregation, where there was segregation by law, where there were water fountains marked for whites and blacks, where black people moved to the other side of the sidewalk if white persons were on the sidewalk. This was up in Tallahassee, Florida. So back in the 50s, when I was growing up, the standard of everything was white. So if the ice came from somebody white, it was better ice, I suspect. But so when I was growing up, though, because of a tragic drowning incident, where young kids were drowned. So it became a tradition in our family that everybody learned to swim, and we were on the swim team. So here I was growing up, learning how to be confident in myself and to become the best swimmer, so much so that even today I tease my brothers about beating them in swim races. And I talk about the swimming because for a lot of young girls, the hair thing kept them out of the pool. But for me, I didn't have a choice. So I just had to accept myself because my parents were more interested in me being a swimmer. And then when I found out I could, get the cheers of the fans by being on boys and swimming, that was inspiration. So as a child, hair was, for me individually, yes, the standard was white hair. And I hated to go to the beauty parlor to get my hair straightened with those combs that you were talking about. And they said, oh, her hair is so thick. And I didn't know what they were talking about. I just knew I had hair and it had to get straightened. But in the summer times, I was a competitive swimmer. So then fast forward, I went to college and it was the civil rights movement. And getting a natural for me was liberating. And all of my friends, we decided we were gonna go natural. And I was at a Swarthmore College, which is an elite liberal arts college right outside Philadelphia, co-ed. And so I was looking at graduation pictures and I had a great big afro when I was a senior, and I went to Harvard Law School still with my afro. And then I went to work for the NAACP Legal Defense Fund, and I litigated civil rights cases throughout the South. I went to court with my afro. But I was very professional. I had my suits and everything. And I lived in New York at the time, and it was nothing for me to think of having a big afro and natural hair. Fast forward a little bit more, I decided to come back to Florida. And I was challenged by a guy that I grew up with, a black guy. He said, oh, well, what's a well-educated Harvard Swarthmore woman? There's no place for you in Florida. And so I said, oh, well, let me see about that. And so that's when I interviewed in cornrows, not knowing that there was all this hullabaloo about people wanting to control black hair. I mean, I'm sort of irreverent, so I don't like for anything or anybody to say they're going to control me. So anyway, I interviewed, and ultimately I landed a position at Holland and Knight, and I then relaxed my hair when I was at Holland and Knight, and it was only on a trip maybe 10, 12 years ago to Jamaica, and I was at the Ritz-Carlton, Montego Bay, got my hair done, and the lady said, girl, your hair is gonna fall out forever if you don't stop putting these chemicals in your hair. And so then about 10 or 12 years ago, I said, oh, well, she's right. Maybe I don't need to sacrifice my being for something that years and years ago I thought was very liberating. So over time, I let the chemicals fade out. And I can tell you, at least in my very, very, very corporate environment, some of the young people said, oh, you look so much younger. Yes. Jonathan, where are you? They said, oh, you look cool. And so no one has ever said anything to me about my hair, and the fact that my law firm, a number of women wear dreadlocks and natural hair. So I only give you this part of my journey to say that, but I was a very productive, meaning successful contributor at the firm. So a lot of times the reaction to hair might stem from a power or economic imbalance, or a sense that you haven't, well, it's just a power or economic imbalance. Right. And when you are not in charge, and when you're not in charge of yourself and your sense of self-esteem and who you are, then it allows other people to make you vulnerable. And I will thank my parents forever for making me learn how to swim and be able to say, oh, it's only hair.
Yes, amen. All right. Thank you so much for sharing that story. Lakeisha, I'm gonna flip the question a little bit because we're running short on time. You deal with a lot of kids. Tell me about what the kids that you interact with now as opposed to in the 60s or, in the whenever I want to date you. What do the kids feel like now with the differences in here? Because we're a very multicultural society here in South Florida.
Well, having worked at several schools, but the school I'm at now, the children there, have many interesting hairstyles, styles, and this is an elementary school, styles that, as a child, I don't think I would have ever been allowed to wear. But, the times are different, the parents are younger, so natural hair to permed hair to weaved hair to afros with color in the mohawks. So it is quite different. And me being a mother of a young child, a little girl who's 8, I think that my experience as a child, my mother, because we grew up the majority of our young life in a single parent home, it was an issue of convenience. So we went from straightening hair, as 3 of us. I have a brother and a sister, and a single parent raising 3 children very close in age. And it went to the convenience of straightening the hair first, because perms weren't really, I guess, popular in the 70s. And then to wave nouveau. Anyone knows what that is?
Jerry curl? Yes.
And the majority of my life, I wore a wave nouveau. And hence always having short hair. But as I've gotten older, so it's been I don't think it's been for me an issue of, straight hair being able to sling, because I've always worn short hair. I think it's been addicted to a chemical, which I call the creamy crack, because it's just more manageable in comparison to me being a mother now and having to do natural hair and just kind of always dreading that time and just sending her off to get it done. Braided, twisted, blow dried out, sometimes depending on the occasion.
As an educator and administrator, when you see the news stories of children being kicked out of school or suspended because they have, whether it's dreadlocks or the natural hair, what is your reaction to that? And does anything like that happen within your school system?
Not that I know of in my school system. Again, I'm on an elementary level, so I'm in a younger, the youngest level of education. But when I think about, the recent situation that happened with the young man in the wrestling match, I think it's horrible. Because this is America. We still have a voice in spite of the conditions, and that's a choice that he should have been able to, regardless, be able to play or wrestle rather. So it's a choice.
Right. Okay. Tanika, you probably, and I don't know, say yes or no, have parents who will also ask you to groom their children's hair. Does that happen?
Oh, for sure, yeah.
Right. What is the impetus behind that when it's usually happening? Is it the parent trying to style the child a certain way? If you grew up in Jamaica, you would see like families of small children, and some of them would have dreadlocks and some would not, and they'd say that's the child's spirit and what the child wants to do. Right. So tell me about what you see.
Originally, I'm from Toronto, Trinidadian background, born and raised. But in my household, we grew up with relaxers because it's 5 girls, 1 boy. So my mom was relax, 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 and then as you get older, figure it out. Now my mom is a big-time Rastafarian, you can't tell me nothing. So she is Miss Queen of natural this, natural that. So a lot of the times when I deal with kids, or even my story was, as I got older and I couldn't afford to have a relaxer, I decided to cut it off and do the Halle Berry look. That's when T-Boz was in, Halle Berry was in, so I rocked with that for a while. Then I got into corporate. So I worked in corporate, I'm like, oh, this is great. I never thought I would be a hairstylist, but something in my spirit, it was always a hobby. I always felt like I was meant to do more. So I started working with a chemist after I stopped working in salons. This chemist opened up my eyes to everything. He literally showed me how hair is a science. And if we approach it as a science, that's when you start getting your results. So there's hundreds of products that you can use, but if you figure out what your cocktail is, that's your cocktail. My cocktail is different from her cocktail. So that's why you could never really sell me a pitch of this product works for everybody, because it may not. She might be on medication. She might be from Toronto where it's cold, she's from down south where it's hot. It's different, right? So when it comes to kids, I've had kids, literally, I'm doing well, we're smiling, we're giggling, I'm combing through the hair, it's, mom walks in, they're on the floor, they're crying, they're flipping over. It's like, it switches when mom comes in, it becomes a painful thing. But when you have a child by yourself and you're talking them through it, even Naya, I do Naya's hair, I'll say to Naya, hey Naya. I'll say to Naya, when you're doing your hair, 4 sections. Start off in your 4 sections, work each section. Big hair gets overwhelming. So talking to kids, letting them know their hair is beautiful, their curls are beautiful, showing them what their curl cocktail is. My nieces, oh, they love a hair blowing in the breeze. They love hair, but I keep letting them know, once you take that plastic out, because that's what it is. When you're braiding your hair with that hair, it's plastic, it's synthetic, you burn it, it smells like plastic. Once you take it out, take care of what's really going on. So I think educating the kids as they're getting older. Relaxer's not really popping these days, sorry, but it's not. So I think the more we educate them, the more we prepare them for that next journey.
Very nice. Thank you. And Mr. Parker,
Yes.
I'm gonna assume by the vintage patina in your beard that you're crossing the age gap between everybody here, right?
Yes.
So talk about when you were younger and what a black man's hair should look like, right? And then as you got older and were able to do your dreadlocks and your big hair and all that kind of stuff, and it became your brand, how it went from kind of stigma to cool.
Well, actually, I was born in a little town called Bristol, Tennessee. And so we really didn't have, it was all black community. And we didn't really have that, we weren't influenced by the white community because it was only all black. The only interaction that we had with white folks is, on occasion, we had to stand out on a porch and watch the Ku Klux Klan parade down the street in the road. That was our only interaction with white folks. So I was raised there, so we all had natural hair, my cousins, my aunties that raised me. That's all I knew. Ultimately the family moved to the Midwest, Flint, Michigan. And so now I was exposed to whites, Latinos, everyone. So I went through the whole gamut of hair with the exception of weaves and wigs. I mean, the whole thing. And because of my upbringing, the afro was a natural thing for me. But I got into, my girlfriend would put the hot iron on the stove and then straighten it out and open the sponge rollers in and go to the corner store. You know, I was ghetto.
Bruno Mars did it in that video.
So I had gone through the whole thing, the ponytails and the whole nine. But it was also the era of the 60s and the 70s where there was a rise of black pride. So as a result of my upbringing, I kept the afro thing going. And as I moved into more of adulthood and attempted to get out into the workforce, there were certain positions I couldn't apply for. My skills were in people interaction and sales, so I knew that that's where I wanted to move. IBM and the companies like IBM and Hewitt was really setting the tone for how men should look across the board. That's the reality. Clean shaven, nice haircuts, you know, the whole look. A couple of jobs that I attempted to apply for wouldn't hire me because I wouldn't shave off my goatee. You know, I was still groomed, but they still wanted that look. And as God would have it, God presented me with positions that accepted me for who I was. So spent years in Flint, Michigan, moved to Los Angeles where they were a lot more open. My hairstyles continued to evolve. Moved to Chicago, got into the radio business on the management side, and because it was radio, open-minded, I could do really what I wanted, which was the whole locks thing. You know, I had hair down to my back, but people, they didn't care. It was interesting because when Yvette and I were speaking on it earlier, when I would go into the white agencies to pitch, they liked it. They thought it was cool. You know, I was cool. But they always wanted to touch it.
What decade was it?
This is fast forward into the 2000s.
Okay.
I was in Chicago.
Okay.
Sorry, I really kind of jumped it, but that was my brand, because I sense, okay, then let's keep rocking this. On the other side of it, when I became a manager and was in charge of hiring, I only hired Black folks that had that look. The look being however they wanted to wear their hair. Why? Because I knew that person, it took a certain type of individual to be themselves, to be in this business. So I wanted someone that had high self-esteem. Because you rocking your hair like that. You got to have some self-esteem. They were smart, creative, because when you do, it reveals all those types of things.
So you flipped it all together.
I kept it. My group was like that. They used to call us the J Unit out of Chicago. Because that was just our thing, and we did extremely well. Fast forwarding it to Miami, becoming a real adult. Still have my locks. A white station, #1 station here in Miami, wanted to hire me. Never seen me before. Had great references. And I was working for Radio 1 at the time, out of Houston. And so they called me, asked around the country about me, because I had also been a national sales manager around the country, running teams, all the top 10 stations. And so I had a phone interview, and they decided they wanted to make me an offer. Only by the phone now. Now get this. Still have my locks, Parker Gannon. When I got there, they were shocked. One, and I told my wife about this later, the woman was sitting across with me, Latin, and forgive me for saying this, but a good old white boy, who's in one station, said, you don't look like a Parker Gannon. What is a Parker Gannon?
Right.
They didn't realize I was Black. I'm assuming just by the reaction. And
Parker can be a Caucasian name, right?
well, whatever. But I was judged. They made a judgment right then. I ran the station for 4 years. Top revenue building station in the entire fleet across the board, bar none.
So they did hire you regardless.
They did hire me,
Yes.
because all the hoopla had been out already.
Right.
So I don't really think they had a choice. Down the road, I discovered that they were on the verge of not hiring me because I had the locks. They were neat. I was professional, had my suit and tie on. So they made a judgment. They wanted to step back on my references and conversation based on how I looked. So I have a strong appreciation for the challenges that women and young people face because of being themselves. And we have a sense of Black pride. I work for the Miami-Dade Chamber of Commerce, and I had lots at the time. They didn't care. And the beauty of it is, when I go into the communities, which I do a lot, I see all types of people. And they don't care if I have long hair, short hair, whatever, as long as I'm providing the service. And that's the part that's easy to get to. Fast forward to now where I have no hair. It was just, after 30 years of doing it, I just decided I just wanted to simplify. My wife was teasing me. Yeah, I remember when you were standing in the mirror and you said, I'm gonna twist this myself because I don't feel like going to the salon, and I'm being there like for an hour and a half. Got it down to a science. But I was just tired of doing that. Right. So in November this past year, I said, you know what, I'm just cut this stuff off. Best thing I did, man. It's simple.
So it took 20 to 30 years after Marley for you to be accepted in Chicago with the dreadlocks.
They loved me, yeah.
Yeah, 20, that's 20, just calculating now, 20 to 30 years after Bob Marley made the locks popular in the general market.
Yes.
And then, I guess this was before LinkedIn with the radio station, where they could check you out. I'm sure we're done with time now, but I do want to ask that question, just throw that in there. With the advent of LinkedIn and people being able to see what you look like, has it made a difference now in terms of...
They don't care.
In this day and age, nobody cares anymore.
Only because I won't say grown up, but only because I'm a senior citizen.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
If I were younger, if I were in my 20s, then it's a whole different kind of thing. Now they look at it because I've earned the right to wear my hair out if I want to.
I know of big people, as we say in Jamaica. You know, I know of grown people who have had, you know, developed, accumulated all their accolades and are still having that kind of issue where they feel like they have to change their hair in the workplace. Final question, I'm just going to ask anybody who has a response to that.
My mom and dad, actually, his story sounds similar to my dad. My dad was hanging on to his locks for years. I think he was down to maybe like 8 or 9 left. I was like, listen, I'm like, once you shave this off, it's gonna change your world. And he cut it off, and he's a professor, you know, he has his master's, and I've watched my dad struggle years. Going to the airport with the locks, it's a problem. They think you have drugs, they think you have a gun, automatically they're summing you up. So he too feels like relieved that he got rid of the hair and he's no longer judged based off of that. But I will say this, that it still exists, it's still out there, because I have clients that are in corporate that would never go into their job with braids. And I've asked them, because I'm starting to ask a lot more questions, why? Oh, because, you know, my boss will look at me differently, or they will cut me up to be a certain way. So Monday to Friday, my hair is flowing. Friday to Sunday, twists, braids, whatever it is.
All right, so I do have to cut it short and throw the questions now to the audience. Does anyone have questions for our panel before we move on to the next? And I'm gonna give you this microphone. Can I get a roving reporter volunteer? Oh, I can't move this one, I'm sorry. All right, if your voice is strong enough, Madame in the red.
I don't quite know how to articulate this question, and I know that the people in the audience are accepting of black hair. But when we look still at our young athletes and who they select in terms of their mate, they still want, whether it's real, fake, or whatever, long, flowing, straight hair. And so my question is, please address that issue as well as the issue of how do we get our men to accept black hair.
Can I throw that to Parker?
I'm not quite understanding the question. Black hair as it relates to women?
In terms as being beautiful. In terms as it being beautiful. I like this woman, her hair is beautiful. A lot of the attitudes of black men are, you are still kinky hair, nappy, why don't you do something with it to make yourself look more beautiful? I mean, I think that's a dominant attitude among black communities, with men.
That's very, very unfortunate. I can't
Now,
speak.
my husband is not like that.
I can't speak on that because none of the brothers that I interact with or guys I know have that attitude. They love all of our sisters, no matter what kind of hair, and would prefer that it wasn't straightened or weaved up or with the wig on.
Well, from a different perspective, Meek Mill, I mean, I'm speaking for the youngers. Meek Mill just put it out there a couple weeks ago on Twitter where he said something about black women and lace front wigs and that they need to take them off, or he feels like every time he's intimate, he has to run his hand through a wig. So that brought up a lot, like they went in for him, boy, like the Bay, all of them, Beyonce's people came for him, everybody came for him. And I think what he was saying to a certain degree was like, check yourself, take off the wig, and like, he might like it without the wig. Like, my man likes me without weaving my hair, and he said that. He's like, I love your natural hair. When I wash my hair, it shrinks down like yours. But people automatically assume, oh, your hair's relaxed. No, I like options, you know? But when I'm ready to take it all down, I'm me. So there's talk out there right now on social media, on Twitter, where a lot of these black men are starting to say, well, take off the wig then. Show us exactly who you are.
And I could share that as well. I do think we simply need to own our own identity. And the thing about not allowing folks to touch your hair, why not? I was at a quick story. I was at an event at the AAA Arena, and I had my hair in an afro. And a Caucasian gentleman, he was as fascinated that he just stood up. You know, he was just out there, and he walked over to me, and he asked me, can I touch it? Now, I know there's some women that have an issue, don't touch my hair. But why not? Why not? So when he touched it, his comment was, oh, it's soft. So you have to dispel this myth about, own it. So I had no no issue for somebody else learning. And I'm okay that he had this strange perception, because until we start to talk about it, until we say, honey, don't just pick me up at the salon, just come on in.
Right.
You know, dispel that, to let them know that if we not have this routine about wig, then going to the restroom, putting the hair back on if you're FaceTiming, get rid of that. Talk to them. Let them know you're here, strategies, you're here, your routine, because I don't want to say we're deceiving them,
But they're not educated as to what goes on. Yes, yes. So allowing people to touch your hair will let them in if they ask permission, and if you are so minded, don't touch mine, right? There's a lot.
Well, the question had to do with being touched. So, Petra really kind of handled that. I was in China last year, and I was so sick of people asking me could they touch my hair. They walk up and they speak English, and they want to touch your hair, and I figured out. I asked somebody how to save $25 in China. Because it drives me crazy want to touch your hair. So, I mean, that's a different perspective that's that. And I'll try to change my way of thinking.
To her point, I teach cosmetology. I've been teaching now for about 2 years in South Florida. And I teach it, so I'm always changing my look, period. I'm always, no one knows what I'm gonna look like from 1 month to the next, because I have that ability to change up. But I love my hair short, but then all of a sudden I decided I wanted to have these twists. They're falling out because my natural hair is about that long. And I was this color in August, so as it's growing out, I change. Well, I stopped in to get some coffee, and the two guys that I see almost every day I walk in there, one's a black guy, one's a white guy. This is what they said to me. Oh my God, we love your hair. Like this. So to her point, you do have some men, this gentleman would say, no, they're not like that. But to your point, for women like me, who I go short, I go with twists, I don't do wigs, and I very seldom do weave, and when I do it, it's big and curly, which emulates my own natural texture. So we still do have men who do have some, and in a minute, I'm gonna go like Robbie in a second, I'm gonna go shave it all off and come back and maybe go completely gray. So there are those, I don't think I'm the only one here that kind of still deals with that kind of issue, but these men gave me a wonderful, wow, you look great with my hair like this.
show them that we are owning it, and believe me, the response will be different.
All right, so thank you very much to our panel. Can we give them a round of applause? We're gonna do a quick group photo, and then we're gonna ask the next set of panelists